Constitution. I think it is an imperfect document, and I think it is a document that reflects some deep flaws in American culture.
Our people are losing that faith, not only in government itself, but in the ability as citizens to serve as the ultimate rulers and shapers of our democracy.
The Constitution reflected an enormous blind spot in this culture that carries on until this day.
But just as we're losing our confidence in the future, we're also beginning to close the door on our past.
My country has not perfected itself. We've struggled to keep the promise of liberty and equality for all of our people. We've made our share of mistakes.
All the legislation in the world can't fix what's wrong with America. I want to talk to you right now about a fundamental threat to American democracy. The threat is nearly invisible in ordinary ways. It is a crisis of confidence.
I believe in American exceptionalism, just as I suspect that the Brits believe in British exceptionalism and the Greeks believe in Greek exceptionalism.
It is a crisis that strikes at the very heart and soul and spirit of our national will. We can see this crisis in the growing doubt about the meaning of our own lives and in the loss of a unity of purpose for our nation. The erosion of our confidence in the future is threatening to destroy the social and the political fabric of America.
We have to put off spending on things we don't need.
And I'm asking you, for your good and for your nation's security, to take no unnecessary trips, to use carpools or public transportation whenever you can.
We're going to have to distinguish between what we really need and what's nice to have.
To park your car one extra day per week, to obey the speed limit, and to set your thermostats to save fuel.
So Washington will be tightening its belt just like families are having to tighten their belts, just like businesses are going to have to tighten their belts.
Many of these proposals will be unpopular. Some will cause you to put up with inconveniences and to make sacrifices. This difficult effort will be the moral equivalent of war.
We're going to have to return to a spirit of service and responsibility and sacrifice.
I cannot stop an irresponsible corporation from raising its prices or a selfish group of employees from using its power to demand excessive wages. But then, if that happens, the government will respond using the tools of government authority.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
I cannot and will not stand by and see this great country destroy itself. I don't agree that our nation must resign itself to inevitable decline, yielding its proud position to other hands. I am totally unwilling to see this country fail in its obligation to itself and to the other free peoples of the world. Our leaders attempt to blame their failures on circumstances beyond their control, on false estimates by unknown, unidentifiable experts who rewrite modern history in an attempt to convince us our high standard of living, the result of thrift and hard work, is somehow selfish extravagance, which we must renounce as we join in sharing scarcity. They tell us we must learn to live with less and teach our children that their lives will be less full and prosperous than ours have been, that the America of the coming years will be a place where, because of our past excesses, it will be impossible to dream and make those dreams come true. I don't believe that, and I don't believe you do either.
It is time for us to realize that we're too great a nation to limit ourselves to small dreams. We're not, as some would have us believe, doomed to an inevitable decline. I do not believe in a fate that will fall on us no matter what we do. I do believe in a fate that will fall on us if we do nothing. We have every right to dream heroic dreams. Those who say that we're in a time when there are no heroes, they just don't know where to look.
They removed slain warriors from the battlefield on a gun carriage, a caisson. In ancient times, a horse was sacrificed to serve the leader in the afterlife. The riderless horse symbolizing the warrior who will ride no more. His boots reversed to gaze upon his troops one last time. Rising from the humble origins from the prairies of Illinois to the seat of power in the White House during a time of national crisis, a crisis of confidence, he renewed the country's pride, reversed her misfortunes, led us to victory over our mortal enemy. Ronald Reagan understood that Americans need to stay forever vigilant, and that freedom is never more than a generation away from extinction. And he left us a blueprint for how to fight threats to America, both the obvious external ones and the insidious, more subtle threats from within. Throughout his life, Ronald Reagan was attacked by his opponents and mocked by the political establishment for his beliefs and ideals. He never wavered. He never gave up. Tenacity and his common-sense values gave him strength, and the louder his opposition became, the more resolute and firm he stood. To understand this great man, one must understand his beloved ranch, his sanctuary. He called it his open cathedral. It was where he could renew his energy, restore his vision to reflect and pray, while riding his horse, working the land, and enjoying its majesty. It was here where history was made. It was here that Ronald Reagan formulated many of his speeches, strategies, and policies that changed the course of history that he became most famous for. The ranch represented to Reagan the values he held so dear: hard work, self-reliance, freedom, and opportunity. And that vision never wavered. A nation of free men and free markets with limited government and a strong national defense. A nation proud of its exceptionalism and unafraid to act upon it. A nation aware of its foundation: freedom, prosperity, victory. To understand this great man, Edmund Morris, his biographer, said, "Go to the ranch. That's where you'll find his soul." In the clamor and whirlwind of events and decisions, it was truly his still point in a turning world.
Tell him about the first time you saw the ranch when you were looking right up there. Oh, it's the clear growth. Well, you come in that private road about a half a mile or so, and winding on this little gravel road through all of these trees. But it is, kind of looking like rolling land and heavily wooded. And suddenly you come out of those trees, and there is this saucer. Down there you can see the house, the barn, and so forth. And then you can see this thing. It's a 600 and some acres of meadows and oak and madrone forests and rolling hills, and then there were some very steep canyons.
Ronald Reagan understood that freedom was a gift from God and must be protected, defended, and often fought for in order for it to be passed on to the next generation. And he fought tirelessly to protect the liberty and dignity of each individual so that they would have the freedom to pursue their own destiny. For he knew that the bigger the government, the smaller the citizen. To President Reagan, the ranch represented freedom.
But then we got down there, and they had horses, and we took a ride, and I tell you, it's just unbelievable. It really is.
The man we bought this from was a cattleman, and he lived just down the hill in the valley down there. So this part of the house was just a screened-in porch, and the main house is the part over there. It's an adobe covered with plaster. It was built in 100 years ago, 1872, 110 years ago. In fact, the adobe bricks were made right here on this property, and it was an original Spanish land grant. Yes, I was governor just in the last, got it in the last year. So then I was looking, knowing I was going to leave office for a while. We found this, and we love it. It casts a spell.
Did you ever come here, to get new ideas for speeches, or just to think of new policies, or did you come here totally to relax?
It casts a spell. There's such a sense of seclusion, and I suppose it's the scriptural line that I look to the hills from whence cometh my strength. I understand it a little better when I'm up here.
People ask how I feel about leaving, and the fact is, parting is such sweet sorrow. The sweet part is California, and the ranch, and freedom.
Is man born to be free or slave? In country after country, people have long known the answer to that question. We are free by divine right. Those who would have it otherwise commit a crime and a sin against God and man.
Our natural unalienable rights are now considered to be a dispensation of government.
And freedom has never been so fragile, so close to slipping from our grasp as it is at this moment.
But man is not free unless government is limited. As government expands, liberty contracts.
Government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem. We've been tempted to believe that government by an elite group is superior to government for, by, and of the people.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are free.
And this idea is still the newest and the most unique idea in all the long history of man's relation to man. Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth. The price for this freedom at times has been high, but we have never been unwilling to pay that price. Freedom is a fragile thing, and it's never more than one generation away from extinction. It is not ours by way of inheritance. It must be fought for and defended constantly by each generation. And those in world history who have known freedom and then lost it have never known it again. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
The ranch was his anchor. To President Reagan, it represented permanency and consistency. The consistency he never had as a boy growing up, his family moving constantly in his father's attempt to find work. This experience shaped his belief that opportunity, hard work, and a chance to prosper were the foundations of success for all Americans. His policies on taxes and regulation reflected that understanding and helped millions in their quest for the American dream.
As a part-time rancher myself, I share an appreciation for this system. The chance to own your own land, to work it by the sweat of your brow, and take risks for profits. So often we forget the risks they're taking.
Reagan made his money first in films, then in television and real estate, most recently from his newspaper and radio commentaries and his lecture tours. But none of his possessions mean as much to him as the 640-acre ranch he bought less than a year ago in the mountains above Santa Barbara. Rancho del Cielo, he calls it. Ranch of Heaven. One senses this is something he and Nancy Reagan have yearned for. Its tranquility, its isolation.
Reagan's humility is reflected in the simplicity of the 1,600-square-foot adobe home with 2 twin beds pushed together in the master bedroom, the fences that he built with his own hands. At his ranch, his dedication to hard work and personal responsibility were a manifestation of his deeply held convictions. The ranch is a living, lasting reflection of all that Reagan believed.
I do a lot of the work whenever I have the opportunity to get there that has to be done around a ranch. As a matter of fact, just this summer we had a number of days at the ranch, and I managed to build, with the help of 2 friends, build about 400 more feet of fence that we built out of telephone poles. And it can get a little backbreaking, but I enjoy that. Someone once asked me when I was ever going to have the ranch finished, and I said I hope never. Because I enjoy that. The other day up in the fog, on the hill, we signed those 2 bills, and I got so mad because I kept looking and looking. They wouldn't show enough of the size of them. The budget cuts alone were a stack of paper that high. I've read every page. And the tax cuts were only that high.
There's a lesson never to be forgotten here. It's people, not government, who create wealth, provide growth, and ensure prosperity. The history of our economic difficulties stem directly from our failure to remember that government consumes wealth. It doesn't create it. American working men and women have much of which to be proud. It was the hard work and skill of working people that turned a vast American wilderness into the world's most powerful economy. Leaders all over the world have asked how we achieve this growth and prosperity. Well, my answer is simple. Less government, more freedom. Our working people are still the most productive on the planet. I've always believed that given the tools and equipment they need, and on a level playing field, American workers can outcompete and beat the pants off anybody, anywhere. In these last few years, we've reignited our citizens' faith in themselves and their country and put our economy back on track. The gains we've made did not happen by accident, and they should not be taken for granted. You know, some people say it's America's natural resources that make our country so great. But the greatest resource of all is our working men and women. Their skill, hard work, guts, and determination. God gave us this great and good land, but it's up to us to make it flourish, to preserve its freedom and to see it grow in greatness.
We win, they lose. With that phrase, President Reagan summed up his strategy for dealing with the Soviet Union, the focus of evil in the modern world. Ronald Reagan is the great liberator who freed 1 billion people from despotism and consigned communism to the ash heap of history. His bold and unapologetic belief in American exceptionalism was predicated on evil is powerless if the good are unafraid.
There's no question but the Soviet Union has made it plain that they are embarked on an expansionist program. They believe in the one world communist state, the world revolution. We're the only two nations in the world, I believe, that can start World War III. We're also the only two nations in the world that could bring about world peace. And I would think that that would be our task, history, to deal with that problem. We believe we have good reason to think that they do have hostile intent. Their expansionism worldwide, their invasion of Afghanistan and so forth.
We must realize that no arsenal or no weapon in the arsenals of the world is so formidable as the will and moral courage of free men and women. It is a weapon our adversaries in today's world do not have. Let that be understood by those who practice terrorism and prey upon their neighbors.
We're a tolerant people, but we do not bow to intimidation, and we've consistently, throughout our history, been willing to defend ourselves. Our tolerance should not be mistaken for a lack of resolve. If our adversaries believe that we will diminish our own self-respect by keeping silent or acquiescing in the face of successive crimes against humanity, they're wrong.
Alexander Hamilton said, "A nation which can prefer disgrace to danger is prepared for a master and deserves one." Now let's set the record straight. There's no argument over the choice between peace and war, but there's only one guaranteed way you can have peace, and you can have it in the next second. Surrender. The martyrs of history were not fools, and our honored dead who gave their lives to stop the advance of the Nazis didn't die in vain. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay, there is a point beyond which they must not advance.
Yes, let us pray for the salvation of all of those who live in that totalitarian darkness. Pray they will discover the joy of knowing God. But until they do, let us be aware that while they preach the supremacy of the state, declare its omnipotence over individual man, and predict its eventual domination of all peoples on the earth, they are the focus of evil in the modern world.
We've come a long way from the days of weakness, vacillation, and timidity. The tide of history is now floating on the side of the free.
Our military strength is a prerequisite to peace, but let it be clear, we maintain this strength in the hope it will never be used. For the ultimate determinant in the struggle that's now going on in the world will not be bombs and rockets, but a test of wills and ideas, a trial of spiritual resolve. I've often wondered about the shyness of some of us in the West about standing for these ideals that have done so much to ease the plight of man and the hardships of our imperfect world. Let us be shy no longer. Let us go to our strength. Let us offer hope. The West won't contain communism. It'll transcend communism. It won't bother to dismiss or denounce it. It will dismiss it as some bizarre chapter in human history whose last pages are even now being written.
There is one sign the Soviets can make that would be unmistakable, that would advance dramatically the cause of freedom and peace. General Secretary Gorbachev, if you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Ronald Reagan, more than any other modern leader, understood the importance of bestowing the values of our founding fathers on younger generations so that they could fully understand the sacred duty they hold to keep the flame of freedom and service alive.
We've got to do a better job of getting across that America is freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of enterprise, and freedom is special and rare.
Oh, somebody once said, life begins when you begin to serve.
Winston Churchill said, when great forces are on the move in the world, we learn we're spirits, not animals. There's something going on in time and space and beyond time and space, which, whether we like it or not, spells duty.
We lit a prairie fire a few years back. Those flames were fed by passionate ideas and convictions, but we can never let the fire go out or quit the fight, because the battle is never over. Our freedom must be defended over and over again, and then again. A new universe of possibilities is opening up before your generation. There will come times in the lives of all of us when we'll be faced with causes bigger than ourselves. We need you. We need your youth, we need your strength, we need your idealism to help us make right that which is wrong. The years ahead are great ones for this country, for the cause of freedom and the spread of civilization.
We have witnessed communism's decline and a rebirth of liberty worldwide. Political correctness has replaced pro-Marxist ideas as the conventional wisdom on too many campuses. What a distortion of the great chaotic yet essential marketplace of ideas.
Not all of us are called upon in our daily professions to face danger and hardship, but each of us has the same responsibility as the hero, to live our lives with honor and dedication, to give 100% to the tasks before us.
I urge you to continue your work. Freedom would not have come to Eastern Europe without the perseverance of many beleaguered freedom fighters. And intellectual balance and fair play will only return because you are willing to stand up to those who would subvert them for some narrow ideological purpose.
The truth is, uncommon valor is often a common virtue in this country of ours. America is the land of the free because she is the home of the brave. The hope of human freedom, the quest for it, the achievement of it is the American saga. Whether we seek it or not, whether we like it or not, we Americans are keepers of the miracle. We are asked to be guardians of a place to come to, a place to start again, a place to live in the dignity God meant for His children. For America, the time has come to dare to show to the world that our civilized ideas, our traditions, our values are not like the ideology and war machine of totalitarian societies, just a facade of strength. It is time for the world to know our intellectual and spiritual values are rooted in the source of all strength, a belief in a supreme being and a law higher than our own. In the years to come, and come it shall, it is your time to explain to another generation the meaning of the past and thereby hold out to them their promise of the future, that you'll recall the truths and traditions of which we've spoken. It is these truths and traditions that define our civilization and make up our national heritage. And now they're yours to protect and pass on.
I've spoken of a shining city all my political life. It was a tall, proud city built on rocks stronger than oceans, windswept, God-blessed, and teeming with people of all kinds living in harmony and peace.
A troubled and afflicted mankind looks to us, pleading for us to keep our rendezvous with destiny, that we will uphold the principles of self-reliance, self-discipline, morality, and above all, responsible liberty for every individual, that we will become that shining city on a hill.
And let us resolve, they will say of our day and of our generation, that we did keep faith with our God, that we did act worthy of ourselves, that we did protect and pass on lovingly that shining city on a hill.